is probably a little
Prince
bit.
William apparently was very involved with getting President Zelensky and President Trump together, so he's still very active.
Yeah, so all of that good to see. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Happy 1-year anniversary to Garrett.
That's right. The cake is waiting for you. We're going to see you tomorrow on Good Day Orlando. Have a good one.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning live on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. Coming up later in the show, we are going to speak with Jeremy Singh about the style behind Disney World's Dapper Days. So you can get dressed to the nines and wear some Disney-inspired costumes. Jeremy always does a great job with those. So we're going to talk with him about the outfits that he had for last weekend's Dapper Days. Going to hear from Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Ashley Moody about Florida's immigration enforcement crackdown. They were both on Fox News talking about that. The Attorney General from the state of Florida, James Uthmeier, announcing this morning a new Office of Parental Rights inside the Office of the Attorney General. What that means coming up. Also a memorial for a student hit and killed by a car outside Oak Ridge High School yesterday. You're looking at a live look there inside of Volusia County Court where the Xbox murders resentencing trial is going on. It can also tell you that the Florida House and Senate are both in session. This is Representative Anna Escamani of Orlando speaking right now as debate continues on SB 700 in the House. This is the Florida Farm Bill that includes a number of provisions, including banning water additives like fluoride. Let's go ahead and listen into the floor of the House as Representative Escamani speaks.
Important to stress that this, at the current levels of fluoride, it's very, very low. And it not only is it safe, but it's a game changer for dental health. And I do worry about the externalities we'd be creating if we allow this language to stay in the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, are there questions of the sponsor? Representative Gant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rep. Escamani, so I know your amendment deals with fluoride. Does fluoride naturally occur in water?
Representative Escamani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, it does, at a very, very low level.
Representative Gant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does your amendment allow local governments, or what kind of power does your amendment keep in the local government's hands?
Representative Escamani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for that question, Representative Gant. It just maintains the current status quo, which means local governments have the power to remove it if that is what their constituents are asking them to do. So it just maintains what is current law and current status in the state.
Members, additional questions? Are there amendments to the amendment?
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
Are there substitute amendments?
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
Is there debate on the amendment? Representative Tuck, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, while this is a very friendly member, this is an unfriendly amendment. I ask you to vote down.
Members, additional debate. Representative Skidmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, there is nothing friendly about cavities. Nothing friendly about cavities. Believe me, you don't want to do this statewide. You don't want to make this decision for every single person in the state. You want to leave control at the local level, and you want to vote up on this very good amendment. Thank you.
Members, additional debate. Representative Escamani, you're recognized to close on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to take a moment to address some of the misinformation on this subject matter for my other public health girlies and boys out there, to just amplify some of my concerns with the current language and why it should be removed. So one of the arguments is that fluoride is toxic and unsafe. It's important to counter that with evidence that many substances are toxic at high doses, but fluoride in drinking water is added at very low, scientifically determined levels that are safe and beneficial, and we know that from over 75 years of research. One argument is that we shouldn't be forced to consume a chemical. Again, as noted in the questioning, fluoride is naturally found in water. Water systems just adjust the amount to the optimal level for health benefits. Another argument, we can get fluoride from toothpaste. Why add it to water? Fluoride in toothpaste does help, but it's not enough on its own. And I bet there's some people here who don't brush their teeth every night and morning, and a lot of kids don't either. And so it's important to make sure that water fluoridation meets everyone where they're at, regardless of income, education, or access to health care. So it's a simple, cost-effective public health measure. And then finally, there's been some debate that new studies say fluoride might be linked to health problems like lower IQ. Most of these studies looked at very high levels of fluoride levels, often in places where natural fluoride is dangerously high. And again, there's no U.S. research to really back up this claim at the optimal levels that we have in society. So I encourage you to vote yes on this amendment, vote yes for public health, vote yes for good teeth, vote yes for equal access to this type of healthcare need, and support this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, all those in favor of the adoption of the amendment, say yay. Yay! Opposed, say no. No. Show the amendment fails. Read the next amendment.
Representative Escamani offered the following amendment with title amendment, barcode 910335. Remove lines 1953 through 2021 and insert an amendment.
Representative Escamani, you're recognized to explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment is for my soy boys out there and my vegan girlies. It essentially strikes out this language around mislabeling. As a vegan, I can tell you that it's an intentional decision not to consume meat products and dairy products and so forth. And when I go shopping, I'm looking for those plant-based products. They're very clearly labeled already. I can tell you that I am not confused when I'm buying a product. And I think that this type of control over a private company is anti-competitive. It is hindering innovation. And of course, if we truly believe in competition, we should let every product stand on their own in that way. And we're giving an unfair advantage at this point to a legacy industry, which is important to the state of Florida, but is thriving right now. And the bill also creates a promotional opportunity for the beef industry that maybe funded this legislative session. And so I do think...
Representative Anna Escamani of Orlando speaking there now about an amendment to regarding the kind of vegan provisions and the provisions about labeling of non-meat products. You heard the debate when we first took it about the fluoride ban and the amendment that Representative Escamani had floated to remove that fluoride ban from the Farm Bill. That amendment failed. Now the Senate did pass this bill as it exists now, which would include that fluoride ban. So if the House ends up approving this as well without those amendments, then that would head to the governor for his signature. So something we are monitoring as this hour continues. We are going to go ahead and take our first break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Grief counselors are at Oak Ridge High School today after a 16-year-old girl was hit and killed while crossing the street outside the school yesterday morning. As Fox 35's Amanda McKenzie shows us, there is now a memorial near where that happened.
Yesterday was a hard day, and today will certainly be another difficult day for those students, learning more about the 16-year-old student who was struck and killed crossing the road yesterday morning. You can see that there's a fence over here right next to Oak Ridge High School where some flowers were left. A woman tells us she placed them there. She's a mother and says her own daughter used to walk this very same path to school. The accident happened just after 8 a.m. on Monday morning. Florida Highway Patrol says the 16-year-old girl was not in the crosswalk when she walked in front of a Dodge Avenger. Her backpack and sandal were left behind when the girl was taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead.
I just wanted to come and just show my support, you know, from the community to the family, to the child. You gotta have more signage. It's gotta be aware. People need to know to slow down.
Now, there are markings on the street warning drivers that there is a school here and speed monitors telling drivers how fast they're going. But even people living around here tell Fox 35 they don't actually know how fast they're allowed to drive around school hours. The speed limit on Oak Ridge Road is 45 miles per hour. Now, the driver stayed at the scene yesterday and answered questions by deputies and state troopers. Right now, FHP says this is still an ongoing active investigation.
And still some unanswered questions with that, something we are continuing to follow up on here at Fox 35. Meanwhile, a crackdown on dangerous dogs, a new bill to put new regulations on people who own dogs who are deemed to be dangerous is now headed to the governor for his signature. That after just months after an 8-year-old was mauled to death in Volusia County, and as Fox 35's Hannah McKenzie reports, his family is among those that has been pushing for passage of this bill.
They say justice for Michael. And we've got little ribbons too.
3 months after Michael Millett was mauled to death by 2 dogs roaming his Volusia County neighborhood, a dangerous dog law is on the brink of being passed in Florida. It doesn't change the fact this smiling 8-year-old's future was stolen from him, but his parents, Michael and Tiffany, say it could save another family from heartbreak.
This is how we want him to be remembered. You know, a smiling, happy, super funny, such an amazing little kid. Like, just a little built-in best friend.
The Pam Rock Act aims at strengthening regulations on dangerous dogs, named after a Putnam County mail carrier who was brutally killed in 2022 by a pack of dogs with a known vicious history. The Rock and Millett families now fighting together to create change. No charges have been filed in either of their cases.
Kind of like a connection you never wanted to make, but you're glad you have.
Right, yes. Because, you know, out of all people, they know how we feel.
The law would require dangerous dogs be securely confined, microchipped, spayed or neutered, and documented in a statewide dangerous dog registry.
It's almost more about holding the owner accountable. Than so much as the
dog.
It also mandates dangerous dog owners have $100,000 in liability insurance and gives law enforcement the same authority as animal control officers. But Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood says it doesn't go far enough.
You shouldn't get a free pass because your animal never bit anybody before and then it mauls a child to death.
They're free to live their lives, and we're suffering in the worst way possible.
Hopefully the governor signs it, and then we can, next year, between us and the Rock family, we'll be up in Tallahassee again fighting for stricter laws.
Hannah McKenzie, Fox 35 News.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, we know some folks saw a little bit of rain and storms yesterday, and seeing some more chances of that today.
That's right, Garrett. It really is this time of year, especially. It's pennies from heaven. We're in the middle of a severe and in some cases extreme drought, so any rain is a good thing. And yesterday, as was forecast, all of it fell west of Orlando, which left a huge majority of our viewership without a drop. Until this morning when we had a couple of showers coming in off the Atlantic, a shower chance which sadly is just about over for the day. Here's a view outside, the clouds at the beach. We'll see more sunshine breaking out this afternoon. Temperatures up around 78 to 80 degrees, but there's a high risk for rip currents because we have an onshore flow at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. The sea breeze will keep it cooler than it was yesterday at the beaches. Highs around 80. We'll be in the low to mid 80s in Orlando and mid 80s along the I-75 corridor. Bushnell checking in with 86 degrees this afternoon. So the rain chances of this morning are now over through the day Friday. We're going to have to look ahead to a pattern change this coming weekend. Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, maybe a couple of storms rolling in as higher rain chances come our way starting this weekend. And this isn't going to be a permanent change. This is only because we've got a weak front that's going to be working into Florida and essentially dying on the vine, stalling over central Florida, focusing its showers and storms right over the Orlando region. So for Saturday, between 5 and 8 p.m., we may see a few storms, about a 40% chance for rain. But on Sunday, there's a much higher chance for rain as that system's going to pick up a little bit more moisture, resulting in what should be a 50 to 60% shot, especially west of Orlando. But that activity there around Apopka should push eastward, being nudged eastward by the Gulf sea breeze. We may see a repeat performance on Monday and Tuesday, but maybe not quite as intense. That front stalling over the region, its exact location determining how much rain we get and how persistent our rain chances are. But it looks like a pretty good bet by early next week for Monday and Tuesday. We could be in a pattern where it's generally cloudy with passing showers. Now, despite the fact that we've got rain chances from Saturday on into the middle of next week, this will not be a drought-busting rain where our drought just magically goes away. This will be a process that takes probably more than a month, maybe 2 or 3 months of consistent rains to chip away at our drought status and replenish the waterways and the aquifers. In the meantime, though, we've got dry weather from now through the end of the week before we start jumping into those higher rain chances and slightly higher humidity levels. So Garrett, it was nice while it lasted, but now we're back to the sunshine, which I guess in its own right is very nice. If you have any plans going to the attractions or the beaches or fishing or anything outside, other than trying to grow the grass or mow the lawn, because there's not much lawn to mow. It hasn't grown in weeks because of the lack of rain.
Yeah, there are definitely some perks to it, but there are definitely some bad things about it as well. So, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
You got it. Thank you, Garrett.
And as we go to break here on Fox 35 News Plus, leave you with a view of downtown Orlando. You can see some of those clouds hanging around on this Tuesday morning. Keep it right here. More Fox 35 News Plus on the other side of this break.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Before we go any further, I do want to clarify something from the story we just ran a few minutes ago about the dangerous dogs bill. The mention of the state registry was in a previous version of the bill, but our understanding, based on the latest text of the bill, that had been removed. Also, it appears that the Senate, in voting on this, also adopted a certain amendment of some kind as well. So sending this back to the House one more time before it will head to the governor, but certainly is expected to move on there. Well, the Attorney General, James Uthmeier, held a news conference in Jacksonville this morning at the Jacksonville Classical Academy. He was announcing the creation of the Office of Parental Rights inside the Office of the Attorney General that will include a portal on the Attorney General's website for parents to lodge complaints. Here is some of what the Attorney General had to say about why he thinks this office is the proper step forward.
Good morning. It's great to be back here in Jacksonville. What grade are you guys in? Fourth grade. Awesome. Well, it's good to be here. I'm Attorney General James Uthmeier. Thank you for joining us this morning. We've got a big announcement. We're going to talk about a new office in the Attorney General's office that's going to be focused on protecting parents' rights. So by now you should know your parents typically know what's best for you. They're always right, even when you disagree with it sometimes. And when it comes to growing up, your education, healthcare choices, the curriculum you're going to have in front of you, we want to make sure that parents are involved. And as somebody that works for the government, I'm here to tell you that it is not the role of the government to raise kids. That role is reserved, that is a God-given right given to parents to figure out. And here in Florida, as you know, we have the best state, and part of why we have the best state is because we promote parents' rights. We've been a shining city on a hill, an example for the rest of the country to look to when it comes to enshrining parental rights and in making sure parents are involved in the decisions when it comes to raising families. And here on this stage are many of the leaders and advocates that have helped make Florida the leader when it comes to parents' rights. I'm joined by Kim Herman. She's the executive director of the Southeastern Legal Foundation. This is a nonprofit that is actively litigating and helping states draft new bills and legislation, new laws to make sure that we are fighting against government overreach and that we are protecting families' rights. Tiffany Justice here, who most in this room know, co-founder Moms for Liberty, has been an instrumental national advocate ensuring that we are protecting parents' rights, not just in Florida, but now across the country. We've got Patty Sullivan, who for many years has been working as the state coordinator for Parental Rights Florida. She has put together a lot of the great ideas that our legislature and governor have implemented and made real law that are working every day to protect parents' rights. And then January Littlejohn, thank you for being here. January is the plaintiff in a very important legal case coming out of Leon County, where a school was secretly working without parental involvement to provide medical treatment and really try to indoctrinate some transitional, what they call gender-affirming care. This is not right. It violates Florida law. We're going to continue to fight it, and we're excited to help her as she takes that case up on appeal. So thank you all for being here. As I've said, freedom begins at home. It begins with the understanding that parents have the God-given rights to raise their kids the way they deem appropriate. And we believe that government should not be in the middle of those parental decisions. Over the past years, we've created great pieces of legislation. Those legislative acts include a private right of action where parents can bring lawsuits on their own, but at the end of the day, bringing a lawsuit, going into court, taking on all these steps, that's difficult and not everybody can do it. God bless the Littlejohns for taking on this very virtuous fight, but the state needs to be here to help. So we're creating this new office. We're going to have a team of litigators focused on fighting the fights that parents bring to us. We still see far too many examples, especially in other states, but also in Florida, where parents' rights are being infringed. In California, they passed legislation where young kids can go through these healthcare treatments and they can be indoctrinated, and parents have no right whatsoever. They made it permanent in law that parents have no right to be in those discussions. Last year, a father in New York lost his 9-year-old son, lost custody, because he questioned the wisdom of a gender transition. In Ohio, we saw something similar. A judge removed a teenage girl, a minor, from her parents when the parents disagreed with what was being pushed upon the child when it came to, again, this so-called gender-affirming care. In Florida, these things are not legal. Our Parents' Bill of Rights protects them. However, you still have school districts, you still have government officials that want to collect data from kids, that want to subject them to, again, treatments without parental permission. They want to impose these surveys where they ask you a lot of questions. Parents aren't involved in those forms, and then they collect the data and it's not available to parents. That's not going to fly in Florida. We are going to fight that. Your parents need to be involved in everything that you've got going on. We love the parents in this state. So schools should educate, not indoctrinate, and we're not going to check parents' rights when the school bell rings. So we're creating this new office. I'll tell you, we've got a team of litigators, many of them moms. They've got their own kids. They are fired up and ready to get to work. We'll be launching a portal where any parent that believes that harmful content or infringements on their rights have occurred, they'll be able to reach out to our office, and we're going to get to work to make it right. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and announce this at a classical school. I love classical schools, so we're happy to be here. And I'll let some of our guests come up. We'll start with Kim Herman, who's fighting this fight across the country day in and day out. Thank you, Kim.
Well, thank you all for having us here today. It's so great to be in a school I have a 2nd and a 5th grader, and so I spent a lot of time in my kids' school, and they were uniforms that look just like the ones that I'm seeing today. But thank you, Attorney General, for opening up this Office of Parental Rights dedicated to protecting parents and kids in the public schools in the state of Florida. I'm the executive director at Southeastern Legal Foundation, and for nearly 50 years, we have been fighting back against government overreach and protecting parents, kids, and students when the government infringes their constitutional rights. As parents, for all of you here today, we know that we're going to have to protect our kids from things like scraped knees, from hurt feelings, sometimes even from broken hearts. But we never expected to have to protect our kids from their own schools. I know I certainly didn't.
That's from the news conference held earlier in Jacksonville. The Office of Parental Rights now established within the Office of the Attorney General. You heard the Attorney General James Uthmeier speak about some of the things that they say they will be standing up against. That was Kim Herman also speaking. She's the executive director of the Southeastern Legal Foundation. And as AG Uthmeier said, they also had representatives from Moms for Liberty at that event as well. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back with more after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer. Thanks for joining us here on Fox Local and on YouTube. Governor Ron DeSantis joined Sean Hannity last night on Fox News to talk about immigration enforcement and specifically working with the Trump administration to enhance the immigration enforcement efforts in this state. I want to play for you a part of that interview of Governor Ron DeSantis on Fox News last night.
The difference, though, it has made with President Trump being in office for almost 100 days. I was governor for all 4 years of Biden. People were pouring across that southern border. Many of them wanted to come to Florida. We sent people to help Texas, but you got no help from the federal government. Now, 99.9% of all the crossings have been stopped. I think that's been a great achievement. However, we have a lot of millions and millions of people who shouldn't be here. Many of them let in intentionally under Biden. And so Operation Tidal Wave is the first of its kind joint operation where the feds are leading, but all of our state agencies and relevant local law enforcement agencies are assisting. So it's been a huge force multiplier. That operation is ongoing. I think that number is going to be higher when they update it. But here's the thing, Sean. When President Trump was elected, I called a special session of the Florida legislature. I wanted to require all local law enforcement to actively participate with ICE. So we banned sanctuary cities my first year as governor. Obviously, we're not a sanctuary state, but that wasn't enough. We need to be on the team. And so I was fought by the leadership in the Florida House of Representatives. They wanted to do a bill to make Florida a de facto sanctuary state. Fortunately, people of Florida spoke out. We were able to win that and get this key legislation in place. And so this is just the beginning. You're going to see a lot more of this from the state of Florida. And if all the states would do this, heck, even if just the red states did it, it would be an amazing force multiplier. I can tell you, Biden gutted ICE over 4 years. President Trump's rebuilding it. That doesn't happen overnight. Local and state participation in these operations is absolutely essential. So, yes, we're not sanctuary. We're the opposite of sanctuary. Now, some of these other sanctuary states, Sean, how is it? It's almost like a heads they win, tails we lose. You know, the left, they don't have to enforce immigration law when they're in the White House. But then when you have a president like President Trump who just wants to enforce what's on the books, somehow the governors are able to thwart it, and that's somehow acceptable. It's not acceptable. We all know that. So I support what the administration is doing to defund these sanctuary states and sanctuary cities.
But how do we deal with states and cities that classify themselves as sanctuary? Or what do you do about the states that allow illegal immigrants to get legal driver's licenses, which adds a very high degree of legitimacy or prevents law enforcement from even asking the status of somebody that may, for good reason, be a suspect of not being an American citizen?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One, at the state level, we've had legislation in Florida that I signed. We don't recognize any of those driver's licenses from California or any of the sanctuary states that they issue to illegal aliens. We don't recognize any identification that's given to illegal aliens. We don't even recognize if a private NGO issues an ID card, and we've been very strong on that. And that's really a key, because if you recognize the ID, then they're going to be able to register to vote and get benefits and a whole host of things. So we've drawn a very firm line. I think all states should do that. At least if the red states did it, it'd make a difference. At the federal level, use the power of the purse. Have Congress condition funding on complying with federal immigration law. They have every right to do that. They have been very hesitant to use the power of the purse. But at the end of the day, if you're going to keep subsidizing these states when they're not following the law and indeed impeding the law, they're just going to keep doing it. So use the purse strings, condition funding on compliance, and you'll see a change in behavior.
And it wasn't just Governor DeSantis. Senator Ashley Moody was on Fox Business as well yesterday, talking about mainly her work when she was Florida's Attorney General in arresting and deporting illegal immigrants, also talking about the arrest of the judge in Wisconsin and a couple of other topics as well. Here's Senator Moody on Fox Business.
Put this in perspective, what President Trump has accomplished in this 100 days.
It has been amazing, and I heard Tom Homan talking about the reason he gets so emotional and so passionate when he talks about this is because he's seen the damage done to families and communities and victims across this nation because of the Democrats. And I'll tell you, as Attorney General, one of the first things Biden did is he started taking criminals that the states and locals had arrested and no longer deporting those committing felony crimes. And as AG, I said, absolutely not. You can't do that. It's incredibly dangerous. People will be committing crimes that shouldn't even be in this country. So to see President Trump step in and take care of business in the first 100 days. I mean, we've almost shut down the borders 100%. And if you'll remember, the Democrats were saying, well, I wish we could do something. We just need more laws. We just need another. No, we didn't need more laws. We needed a president that took the job seriously. And President Trump has demonstrated that. He's willing to do it. He's willing to make the tough decisions and get it done. And our country is benefiting from that.
And we need to put these child rapists in prison.
Get them off the streets. I don't care, frankly, whether the prisons in El Salvador are right here, but the fact is that these people were being let go, and that led, of course, to the arrest of that Wisconsin judge, Hannah Dugan, who was arrested last week for allegedly helping an illegal escape through the back door of her courtroom. It's reportedly still being paid while she's a reserve judge. While a reserve judge takes over her case. Former Attorney General Bill Barr, who we should mention is no friend of President Trump, he said this to me on Friday about whether or not the arrest of her and other judges obstructing federal agents is legal. Here's what he said. Roll it.
So I don't think there's any question about this, and I think it's time for zero tolerance and getting back to basics, which are that judges and state officials are still citizens, they're subject to the federal law, and they cannot interfere in or impede the federal function. So I'm 100% in agreement with what's done.
Are you 100% in agreement that it will be deemed legal, Senator?
Listen, I served as a judge for over a decade. If a colleague of mine had helped a criminal evade law enforcement, if a colleague of mine had harbored someone that law enforcement was looking for, or even, I believe one of these judges went so far as to destroy potential evidence, that's a crime. It doesn't matter what your job is, whether you're a judge or any other profession. So, you know, do not listen to the Democrats where they start talking about, oh, we have a constitutional crisis because we're arresting judges. We're arresting people that are committing crimes.
Absolutely.
It does not matter your position.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning. fun weekend at Disney as fans celebrated Dapper Days. And who better to join us now to talk about this than Jeremy Singh at Jeremy the T on social media. And Jeremy, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me here.
So first of all, for those who may not be familiar with it, just talk to us about what Dapper Days is, what makes it such a fun time.
Absolutely. So Dapper Day is like a traditional day that spans back quite a while now. That started out as being a day where people came to Disneyland, and by extension Disney World, dressed in their vintage attire. So very 1920s, 30s, 40s, that kind of stuff. And over the years, it's evolved into a day where people come just dressed to the nines. Sometimes in Disney bounding attire, still a lot of vintage stuff. But essentially, it's the Disney World's Met Gala, where everyone's super dressed up, and it's a really, really fun time.
And so we know you went all out here. So talk us through your first outfit here.
Absolutely. So I, growing up, was a big fan of the movie The Aristocats, and so I wanted to do something that was vintage inspired, but also still had that character aspect to it. So I did Berlioz, who is the kitten who plays piano in that movie. And I used a black tailcoat to give the maestro look, while also pairing it with some accessories that still gave kitten with my little cat beret that I had, but also some musical elements to really hone in on the fact that he was the musical talent of the family. So my true Jeremy the Chief fashion, kind of putting all those things together to come up with something fun.
What was your favorite element of this outfit?
I think it has to be my little music note epaulets that kind of come off the shoulder and then onto the collar and then off the shoulder again. I liked that playing with the 3D to 2D aspect of that, and it was very well received this weekend too.
I would imagine so. Now talk us through your second outfit here, because that wasn't your only one. Talk us through what we're looking at here.
Yes, so for the second one, I've had a lot of people request this certain video game franchise called Kingdom Hearts, right? And I wanted to do something inspired by that. My roommate is the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan ever, so he really helped me with this one. But it's inspired by Sora, who's the main protagonist of the franchise. And there's a lot of elements that went into this one that I had to make, from these epaulets that had keyblades on them, to his little crown cravat that I had here in the middle, to my boots being the enemies from the game, which are called Heartless. So this was really fun to do too, because I got to be really creative in how I incorporated all the elements from that game into one outfit. And this one was kind of the hit of the weekend from what I've been seeing on the internet. And everyone's been very, very kind about this one, and I was really excited to display this one this weekend.
What was your favorite element of this one?
Oh gosh, I think it's kind of a tie. I think the Keyblade epaulets are really cool, but the boots being the enemies from the game, I think is the real cherry on top.
You talk about the reception from folks. What does that mean to you, to see what these outfits mean to other people who get to see you wearing them?
It means the entire world to me. I think fashion in itself is such an integral storytelling tool, and that's how I like to use it. And so it's cool to see when I put these things together and I'm telling this fashion story, that people are so receptive of it. And seeing how people also interpret it to their own sense as well has been really, really cool. And so it's just a very cool experience overall, and I'm very grateful for it.
Jeremy, the outfits are always very intricate. So can you talk to us a little bit about all of the work that goes into this, how much time it takes to put these together?
It honestly depends on how ambitious it is. It always typically starts from an idea, and then I'll sit down and I'll sketch it out on my laptop using my little stylus that I have, and that's a whole trial and error period, because there's some things that I really like about outfit ideas, but then some things that I don't think will work, so we kind of just change it throughout the process. But from sketch to full creation can take anywhere from I don't know, a couple weeks to maybe a few days, because I'm also a chronic procrastinator, and I work best under pressure, and sometimes I put that on my own self. So just depending on how much I can visualize that I have to do, determines how long the outfits take to put together.
And so Why, just if you could talk to us about why you think the kind of world and the world of Disney lends itself to such creative costumes like you're able to create.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Disney just kind of, from how I experienced it as a kid, is just this like pillar of like imagination and creativity. And it's over the years created so many colorful like characters and concepts that I think really lend themselves to like the creation of all of these. I mean, one of the like concepts within Disney being Imagineering, kind of pairing like imagination and engineering together. And that's kind of how I also see the way when I'm designing these costumes, is that like it really is all rooted in your imagination. The like tactile putting it together part really is just a very small portion of it. And so I think all of those things considered, it really is just like a hub to foster the imagination and to help create these really cool things that I get to make.
Well, they always turn out so great. We love talking with you about them, Jeremy. Anything else next on the table that you're working on that you want to share?
I've got some really fun stuff coming up in the next couple of months that I don't know if I'm fully allowed to talk about yet, but stay tuned. Some new exciting costumes are coming, and some really cool opportunities are coming.
All right. Well, we are glad to hear that and can't wait to see what they are. Jeremy Singh, always good talking with you, and we appreciate you joining us on Fox 35 News Plus this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Perfect.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday morning. A bag of cookies may have saved the life of a woman and her dog while they were out for a walk, going for a walk, and they were attacked by a bear in Sanford. Fox 35's Caroline Coles has the story.
Kristen Savage was walking her dog right here, just steps away from her house when that attack happened, and she believes it was a bag of cookies that saved their lives. In a heart-pounding moment caught on camera, Kristen Savage and her dog dodged danger, escaping a bear, barely making it inside their home.
At one point, I thought, like, we're not gonna get out of this because there's nobody here to help me.
Just seconds earlier, a mama bear protecting her cubs had charged Kristen right near her front yard.
And all of a sudden, I see a black head come up by my leg.
With nowhere to run, she lifted her dog into the air, spinning in circles, trying desperately to keep him out of the bear's reach.
I held him like a piñata in the air, and I spun around to get him away.
As panic set in,
he was in her mouth at one point.
She remembered something her mom had handed her just minutes before, a bag of cookies.
I threw the bag at her, and she stopped for a minute. She went towards us, then she stopped and went back and sniffed the cookies. As soon as she was distracted by the cookies, I ran to the front door.
Those cookies giving her the few precious seconds she needed to escape. Wildlife officials say bear encounters are becoming more common, especially in the spring, when mothers protect their cubs.
If I take the dog out, I have to come out with like pots and pans.
Kristen says she doesn't blame the bear. She understands it was a mother protecting her cubs.
I'm a mom myself, so if I ever thought my kids were in danger, I would fight somebody for them too.
Wildlife officials say if you ever come in contact with the bear, do not run. Instead, back away slowly. Also, make yourself look big, just like Kristen did. Officials say those are all things that can help you survive. Reporting in Sanford, I'm Caroline Coles, Fox 35 News.
And some breaking news here, the live look inside the Florida House, where just moments ago they passed the Farm Bill 88 to 27 that includes a ban on water additives that are not used to purify the water. So think fluoride. That was obviously the big discussion today throughout when it was moving through committee, and also the debate in the Senate when they considered it as well. So that farm bill with that provision now will likely now head to the governor's desk. I would have to check to make sure there weren't any other amendments to that bill that would send it back to the Senate first. But either way, likely heading to the governor after the House passed that bill. It was a rough night for the Miami Heat. I don't know if you watched any of that game or not, but you didn't miss a whole lot. Their season is over. They swept by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the playoffs, and last night it was a 55-point win for Cleveland. I had to do one of these and make sure I was seeing the scoreboard correctly on the screen. Cleveland outscored Miami by 122 points in the series. It's the largest margin of victory in NBA playoff series history. Heat head coach Erik Spoelstra and Heat guard Tyler Hero spoke after the game.
First, I'd like to just congratulate Cleveland. They're a hell of a basketball team. They're going to be on probably a long run right now, but they're well coached. They have a group that fits and plays the right way. So we were humbled, but they had so much to do with a lot of how we looked. None of us would have guessed, the series would have gone this way coming out of our two play-ins, and even how we competed in the first two games, but they just took it to another level. Obviously, we didn't play well, and we didn't meet any kind of level from there, but they left us behind these last two games. I'll be able to separate this because this is a group that it's a shame that will be remembered for these two home games here and taking a 4-0 sweep, because this group showed a lot of character and resilience. It was a fun group to be around, especially those last 8 weeks of the season while we were just grinding, grinding, and then playing our best basketball at the end of the season when it mattered. It was a fun group to be around. I felt fully alive, as alive as I've felt, in a while in a regular season. It's a big credit to this group and how connected this group was, how this group was really playing for each other. But it'll be a story that nobody really cares about because of how it ended, and I get it. But I feel for the locker room. This group has put a lot into this season, and to be able to overcome a lot of things, and then to have those two play-in games where most people would say, what's the big celebration? Mediocrity, but it was a lot of fun. When we won in Atlanta and flying to Cleveland, it was just a lot of fun on that plane ride. really felt like this group was connected. I wish it was, potentially, we had somebody else, just to extend this, but Cleveland's a hell of a basketball team.
You touched on it.
So complimentary words for the Cavs, but a tough way for the season for the Heat to end as well. And we are also getting ready for the must-win for the Magic. We're going to talk with Tyler Karen about that coming up in our 2 o'clock hour on Florida Live. So thanks for joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus. We will be back at 2 o'clock with another live hour, and then 4 o'clock with Fox 35 News Plus as well. So keep it here on Fox Local.